Hello, everyone. So for those who don't know me, I'm Gemma. If you haven't been to, I've done 2 other workshops this year. So I'm a Montessori mum of 2 children. I'm also a Montessori teacher and a Montessori lecturer of students as well. I've been in Montessori for over 25 years, I think, approximately. And so this is going to be an exciting workshop today. I've tried to do a little bit of the 2 different age groups, a 0 to 3 age group and then the 3 to 6 age group as well. So let's just go on to what we'll cover today. And then if you have questions that you want to ask, because I'm going to be showing a lot of material, but I'm still not even going to be touching on the Montessori materials, because a lot of the Montessori materials takes like 3 or 4 days to go through them. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to be focusing on Montessori curriculum areas. I'll talk about the curriculum areas that the Montessori has. Then we'll go and look at the features of Montessori materials, because Marie Montessori designed these materials with specific features. And with these features, it makes the materials, makes them unique and what they are today. Then I will give a brief explanation of these Montessori materials in the different age groups. I'll discuss their purpose and I'll give you an approximate age. So remember, age, there's approximate age, but some children can do it earlier and some children can do it later. So I'll give you approximate age. But the main aim that we are guided by is observation of the child. That will let us know when the child is ready for a piece of material, not we have to do it because it says in the books the child is 4. We have to do it based on our observations of the child as well. And then at the end, if there's any questions, I'm very more than happy to answer any questions. Before we go on, you'll see a photograph there. That's actually the Montessori bells. So this piece of equipment is in the culture curriculum area, and it's not a very well-known, very used piece of equipment because, one, it's a very expensive piece of equipment, and unless you have training with these materials as well, it's quite hard to teach. But that I've tried to show some very different Montessori materials today, and unique ones that you may not have seen before, and give them explanations. So let's move on to the Montessori curriculum areas. So the first one, which sets the tone for all the other curriculum areas, is practical life. Practical life is the first curriculum area that is introduced to a young child, and it sets the foundation for all the other curriculum areas. When we see that a child is dysregulated or having trouble concentrating, we always take them back to practical life activities. Practical life is the core curriculum area, and practical life activities revolve around self-care. So a child learning how to care for themselves, put on their shoes, dress themselves, wash their hands, put on sun cream. That's care of self. Brush their hair. Care of the environment activities are looking after the space. That could be in the home or in the classroom as well. And food activities, which is a very, very popular one, and most children love food activities, and that's how you can connect some children that have trouble connecting to the environment through food activities. My son was very into food and he absolutely loved the different food activities. There's so many that you can do. And grace and courtesy is learning how to move in the space. It's learning how to carry chairs, how to greet people, how to say goodbye, say hello. It's about and grace and courtesy is a core space of a Montessori classroom and of home as well. It's how to move in the space, how to respect the materials. Yeah, we sit with the book. Yeah, grace and courtesy is about the respect that we have for ourselves and for the environment. Sensorial, so in the picture here you'll see a piece of sensorial equipment that I've shown. Later on, I will go and explain about that piece of equipment. But sensorial curriculum area is a refinement of the senses through exploration, and it's refining all 5 senses. And in the 3 to 6 area, we'll go through different activities that can refine each of the 5 senses. Language, so that's the spoken language, writing, reading, and vocabulary. So there's materials in the language area. Then there's mathematics, so there's materials in this area. So concrete introduction to number, quantity, and operations. So children can get into quite high order thinking activities in this, but it's all done through concrete, hands-on, and they don't actually know how much they're actually taking in. It's going in unconsciously. And culture, this is a really big curriculum area, and this includes art, music, science, geography, botany, zoology, and history. So those that I've mentioned there, all of those are in the 3 to 6, but mainly only art, music in the younger age groups, and dance in the 0 to 3. We don't tend to focus on geography and history in the 0 to 3 age groups. Okay, so let's go on to the features. So Montessori they're designed with purpose, and they isolate a single skill or concept. So the easiest way to discuss this would be to look at the pink tower. So you'll see the tower here, the 10 pink tower blocks. The aim of this material is visual discrimination of size. So you'll see here that the only thing that varies is size. The color is the same. So it isolates that skill or concept. The concept we want to teach the child is to discriminate by size only. We don't want them to get distracted. So Marie Montessori's materials were absolutely, the way that she designed them was amazing. The child is then directed to where we want their focus, and their focus is on size. She wants them to learn about visual discrimination of size. She doesn't want them to learn about colors. So when we talk about this pink tower, we don't mention color, because this piece of material is to teach size. Down below, you'll see the wooden block. That's called the cylinder blocks, and there's 10 of those. And then once again, you'll see that they're all the same color. And that one is, again, another visual one. It's the visual discrimination of size. So she hasn't done each of these 10 blocks in different colors, because the purpose is not color. The purpose is visual discrimination of size. Yeah. And then the other feature is hands-on and self-correcting. Without me giving you this demonstration, but I've chosen a piece of equipment, the one that we're just talking about, the cylinder blocks, for the self-correcting part. So when a child puts each of these blocks in, and one of them may be incorrect, they'll actually have to take one out and try and figure it out themselves. So Maria Montessori made her materials so that the child can notice the errors and then they can self-correct. Because in Montessori, the materials are the teacher, the educator, the parent. We draw the child's view to that piece of material based on our observation. We may think, I think this child is ready for this based on my observations. And then we demonstrate it to the children. And then once we demonstrate it, that's just the first connection. We need them to repeat it many, many times, because it's in the repetition that the child develops their concentration. This activity, and it's through repetition that the concepts and the skills are taught. As a parent and educator, we demonstrate the materials, and then the materials have the power to teach the child. But they have to repeat this activity as well. And repetition is crucial for using Montessori materials. Yeah, that's a really part. And through repetition, the child develops concentration. Yeah. And supports independence. So this one down here as well, that's the window washing. This one here is to, I think I go on to explain it later on, but through repetition. The children in the 0 to 3 age group absolutely love this piece of material. They love water, so they're very connected to this one. They love the spraying and they also love the wiping. So they will go back to this piece of equipment over and over again. From my teaching experience, they absolutely love it. It's quite funny though, when they're learning how to use a spray bottle, they get quite shocked when they spray their face, but that's just part of the learning experience. But yeah, they want to repeat this because they want to master learning how to use these materials as well. So they're the features, and each piece of equipment has a different purpose and a different skill to be learned. Yeah. And this is isolated through the materials. That is the clever thing about Marie Montessori's materials. And all of these materials were designed from her watching children and observations. So yeah, so her material are absolutely beautiful. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go on, and I'm going to give some brief explanations of some different materials in the different curriculum areas. So this one here, so the first one here is, this is for the newborns, the very young ones. And as visual development is very strong for the child, they can independently move their eyes. So we provide them with beautiful materials that they can independently look at. They can independently look at these mobiles. So the first one that's introduced to the very, very young child when they're birth to about 6 weeks is called the black and white mobile. And children can see colours, but they are very, very attracted to seeing the contrast because of from being in the womb, the light and dark. So they can see the colours, but they are still more drawn to the black and white. So that's why the black and white is the very first mobile. The child loves watching and looking at the different contrasting colours. So you'll see the black and white. I know that you can't see the whole mobile there, but this is very calming for the child and they absolutely love looking at it. I had a photo that I was going to put on, but unfortunately I couldn't get it to go on, of my son looking at a black and white card and at around 2 weeks, and he was absolutely mesmerized, focused and concentrated from looking at that card. And the baby feels calm and they can be a sense of independence because they're able to use the visual skills. The next one here is the octodrum. That's the different colours. And the purpose of that one is to introduce the 3 primary colours and develop visual discrimination and depth perception as well. And I know that you can't see in the photo, but these are often made by the students when they're doing their training in the 0 to 3, but there's actually a holographic paper that is used, and they're very, very light. All of these mobiles here are very, very light and very fragile because they're not meant to be touched. They are only for visual tracking and observing. So the child, once that we see them trying to touch these materials, then they're ready to move on to the mobiles, the hanging mobiles that they actually can touch. These are not meant for the child to touch because the Gobi mobile is actually made, can be made out of quite fine thread and would be not something that we want the child to put in their mouth. So these materials have to be watched and monitored when they're used around young children because we don't want them to put them in their mouths. Yeah. The Gobi one is quite beautiful. Oh, the octodrum one is introduced from about 6 weeks onwards, but again, this is just approximate age. You might find your child in daycare or home is ready to move on from that mobile earlier. The Gobi one, which we see is all the green shapes, is refining the colour, but now it's in gradients. It's hard to see in that photo, but you'll see that it goes from darker to lighter colour. I actually made one of these for my son when he was around, newborn age. Very fine thread and wrapped around a ball of some type. But then the child now is looking at colour, but they're looking at different shades of colour. So we're further progressing their visual development. Yeah. And this one here, the Gobi, promotes extended concentration as well. And that one's from about 7 to 10 weeks approximate. The last one there in the series is called Dancers, and the material that it's made out of is very, very light cardboard. So if you put it out where the wind blows, the little pieces can move. So now we're starting to encourage the child to do more tracking. Yeah. So at first they may not only be able to looking and focusing. Now we're actually getting them to, we're extending on that tracking. Yeah. And building on that, on their vision. Yeah. So this one's approximately about 10 to 12 weeks as well. So these are the visual mobiles, but they're not to be touched. So that's a really important part, because a child could easily break these. Yeah. So that's really, really important, that if you see a child trying to reach up and grab the dancer, then we move it away, because if we have it too far away, it's not in their visual eyesight. It has to be, like they say, approximately about 30 centimeters, which is probably from the breast to the face, which is about the space that children can clearly see there. So if the child tries to touch them, we move them away and we give them something that they can touch, because we follow that desire that they want to touch an object. Now, the next one is fine motor development. This is the development of the hand and the fingers. So the first one we see is rings on a rocking base. This one is to develop the hands and fingers, but a child around this age, this one's about the 6 to 9, when the child can sit. The child has more of a whole hand movement, and their wrist is not so flexible. With this one, the little rings on the rocking base moves. So as it moves, the child doesn't have to use their flexing as much in their wrist. Yeah, so this one encourages the fingers and the development of the hand. The next one here, and I love all their names, box with bins. This one again is to encourage the development of the finger and hands, but it's also about wrist flexion. As the child puts their hand on the little knob and pulls it down, their wrist moves. But once again, the children aren't aware of these things, but the material is refining and developing their hands. Yeah, it's also the pincer grip as well, the fingers that they need to strengthen for really like for pencils, and also for when they move into the 3 to 6 age group, the Montessori Materials, that first knob cylinder that we saw, cylinder blocks. Down there you'll see on the box with bins, approximate 9 to 12 months. But once again, observing your child, observing the child that's in your centre or in your home, observing the movements of their hand, and then we'll know. Rings on a horizontal dowel is quite more of a complex activity, because the child would want them to have good control of these 3 fingers. If they have only whole hand, they're going to find it very, very hard to pull a ring off with just the palm grip. Yeah. And this piece of equipment, rings on a horizontal dowel, lays the foundation for threading. Yeah, that threading activity, putting it on. Yeah. So this one is much later, around that 12, 13, 14 months onwards, depends on the child again. Yeah, I try not to say a particular age, because some children are more developed in the fine motor and over the gross motor and more developed in the language. So it just depends, and it's all based on observation. But approximately around that 14 months, they may be ready for the rings on a horizontal dowel. And then the last one is the latch boards, and that one's quite a lot more complicated. And that would probably be from about 18 months on to 2.5, depends on the child. And that's developing, again, lots of fine motor and problem solving. In this one here, they have to problem solve, but to do this one, you'd want them to have a really, really good that pincer grip, because they're not going to be able to do it the whole hand again. Yeah, so a lot of control here because it's going to challenge them. This latch board is going to challenge the child, and there's about 5 in the series. And once again, you'll see in that picture here that they come separately. So it's not a board with 7 different latches. It's a board with 1 latch. So we're isolating the concept. We just want the child to learn how to do the hook one or the bolt one. We're not saying do all 7 at once. Yeah. So it's refining the skill there. Are there any questions, further clarification? Just let me know if you have any questions about this, because for those who are learning, I know it can be a lot of information in one session, and I'm trying to, it's quite hard to really condense Montessori materials in a short webinar. Yeah. So these, moving on, we'll go on to the 0-3 gross motor materials. So the ball tracker is something that is seen in a lot of, it's seen in a lot of shops and centres. And often the main purpose people think is visual tracking with the eyes. But the actual main purpose of this material is to encourage the child to pull, stand, and then sit down. So it's actually a gross motor skill. So this piece of material, if you're using it in your space, has to be quite stable, because we actually want the child to stand and hold on, drop the ball, and then sit down. So it's actually encouraging children to go from standing to sitting, which is quite a challenge for those children who are just learning how to pull themselves up. And then once again, this piece of equipment can be introduced to a child who is not pulling up, so they could just sit and put it to the lower rungs. But as you demonstrate and show them how to put it at the top, they're going to be enticed. So we want to use materials to entice children to go to the next level in their development. That's what the material is for. It supports them and entices them. It challenges them to extend themselves. Yeah, and the material supports them. We'll go down to the walker wagon. The walker wagon is an excellent piece in supporting children to develop their walking and their stability. So this particular walker wagon I have used with my son, and it's really, really sturdy. There are many, many walker wagons that you can buy, but unfortunately, a lot of them, when the child pulls themselves up, the walker wagon slips from underneath them and goes too fast. So the child who's just learning how to walk, all of a sudden cannot take 7 steps at once. They can only take 1 little step while they're pushing. So this piece of material, this walker wagon, is actually from Radio Flyer. It's a really good one because the wheels are very stable. When the child pulls themselves up, the wagon stays really stable. It doesn't move away from them. But another really good tip to put in the walker wagon is to put something heavy. Yeah, you could put heavy blocks or something. Often the children at the centre I currently work at, they like to sit in the walker wagon while the other friend pushes them. So that gives them stability as well. And once again, the walker wagon can be introduced to a child who's showing. This can be any age. Some children show the ability to pull and cruise at 8 months. Some maybe not until 15 months. So, but it really, really supports them and encourages them to practice that skill of cruising with support. So we'll move on again. So that was just a very, very brief introduction to the materials for the 0-3. Now I'll go on and just give a little bit of information about the 3-6 materials. So here we have practical life, but all of these materials here, except for the leaf dust, can be used in 0-3 as well, just in a different way with materials quite a bit smaller. So we've got flower arranging. So this can be introduced to a child from about 2.5, but in the 0-3, sometimes even a bit younger as well. But to do this one, the child has to know how to pour. So when we're looking at materials, we need to think about what does the child need to have some skills at before they can do that piece of equipment. So if I was looking at flower arranging, there is a lot of pouring and there's also cutting. So we want the child to have learnt how to do pouring and cutting in isolation first before they move on to the flower arranging. Yeah. So window washing, this is an absolute favourite with any age group. They absolutely love it. They sometimes like spraying their friends. That happens. They're still children. They also like spraying their mouths and having a drink. They get quite creative with that part. But, you know, that's just part of it as well. So that the educator can step in and say, oh, here, I will show, or the parent, here, I'll show you that this window is really dirty and we're gonna work together to clean it. Yeah. This one here, I don't know if many people have seen this one. It's called the leaf duster. It's a beautiful piece of equipment. And if you have a large plant in your environment with big leaves or in your home, the child can actually run this leaf duster. It's actually just, you can make them yourselves. It's beautiful. It's actually just lamb's wool and then scrunched up. And then the child can actually dust the leaves. Yeah. So to do this one, though, you would want the child to know what delicate means and careful, because the leaf could get damaged if the child, yeah. So in this age group, the leaf duster probably would be closer to a 2.5, 3-year-old. I'm not sure I'd give it to an 18-month-old because the leaf may get broken, in not meaning to, but it could. Another one in the 3 to 6 is pouring. So the child can learn how to pour from jug to jug. That's another activity. And it's interesting to note as well that the activity is set up with everything that they need. So if the child spills the water in the pouring activity, there is a sponge there so that they can clean it up. So the child then can do the whole activity, even the cleaning up part as well. And you'll see in the flower arranging as well, there was a little sponge so the child can clean up any spills, because it's all right to, that's what I love practical life activities. It's fine to make messes because then we get more practical life activities to do. So often I'd have some educators or parents say, but there was mess all over the floor. I'd say, but that's a great opportunity to get the broom out and the dustpan and brush out and learn how to sweep. So in those accidents and mistakes, we can see opportunities for practical life. And children at this age, from, you know, like 18 months to 6, they love practical life activities. This is the time when they absolutely love them, and we want to encourage them to do as much as possible, because eventually they start to focus their attention on other things, and practical life is not as important to them. They can do it, but it's not, the love of it is not as strong as in this age group. Yeah. So let's move on. These are some of the sensorial materials. So I've tried to put in 2 in here that maybe parents and educators may not have seen before. So the first one, though, we'll talk about is the red rods. This one is developing, and you'll see once again the isolating onto concept. They're all the same colour, but the thing that varies is the length, because we want to develop the visual sense of length, smaller and getting longer and longer. Yeah. And this one here actually the red rods prepares the child for mathematical concepts. This one often looks a lot like the number rods. So the child gets to know that 1 is quite small, but 10 is really big. Yeah. So the materials often prepare them for future learnings. The next one here is the sound cylinders. And the purpose of this one is auditory discrimination by matching sounds. So in each of these ones, the red and the blue, the child has to listen to the red, so they first shake it to their ear and they have to listen to that sound, and then they have to find the matching one in the blue set. Yeah, and some of them are quite tricky. Yeah, so they really, really have to listen, and they have to have really good concentration skills. If I was introducing this to a child that had a lot of trouble concentrating with practical life, this would not be the activity to do to this child, because this child has to have concentration, because you need to focus when you're listening. Yeah. So that's the sound cylinders. And then approximately from 3 onwards. Yeah. You could have a younger child, but I'm not sure that they would be ready to focus in on that. Yeah. The younger children, we focus on sounds and giving them rich sounds so that when they come to do this activity, they've had exposure to sounds. So that's what we do in the younger age group. We give them as many rich and beautiful sounds and exposure. And then when they get to 3 to 6, we refine that and encourage them to match and grade sounds as well. Smelling bottles. This is quite a good one. So once again, the same as the sound cylinders, we put different smells. Often the educators will put like little cotton buds in the bottom, and you can have different smells like, you know, peppermint, rose, all different smells that are safe for the children to use and safe for the individual children that you're working towards. Because I know I had one child that was allergic to peppermint, so you wouldn't be putting peppermint in there. So all smells that are safe for the children that you're working with. And once again, they pick the bottle up, I mean, the bottle up, they smell it, and then they match it to the one that is the same. Yeah. Fabric box. So I've tried to show one of every sense. The fabric box is refining the tactile sense. So we're actually asking the child to feel in that little box, a fabric box. There are many different textures. I'm actually asking the child to feel the texture and then match it to the one that is the same. That's the sense of tactile sense. And the last one, the tasting bottles. This one again is the same, but we're doing that gustorian sense of taste. And it helps children to distinguish between sweet, salty, sour. So they're the type of ones that you could put in. And it encourages lots of different vocabulary. So once the child has used this, we can then use vocabulary that I've talked about: sweet, salt, sour, bitter. There's so much rich language in all of these Montessori materials, but we first start off with the child just using it and repeating it. Yep. And the tasting bottles would be introduced to a child of 3.5 to at least 4, because they need to follow the hygiene. We don't want them putting the whole entire eyedropper in their mouth. So they need to know that they put the eyedropper into a little bowl and then they taste it. So the child has to follow quite a few sequences to get to this stage as well. So then we move on to language. I've tried to put in a few interesting ones. So I Spy box, that's the very, very first one that we would introduce in this language activity. And this is for the child just to hear the sounds. Yeah. So a bit like the game I Spy My Lie, something beginning with, and we say k, 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 and then they have to find the object that starts with k. Yeah. Then we move on to the sandpaper letters, and the educator teaches the child the sounds. We always focus on the sounds of the letters and not the names. Yeah. Always the sound that the child hears. And then once the child has quite a lot of phonetic sounds, like they know a lot of these phonetic sounds in the sandpaper letters, we can move on to the movable alphabet. And the movable alphabet is to support early writing. So the child can build words, but they actually don't have to physically write them. They're just listening to a word and trying to make that word with the movable alphabet letters there. So they don't need to write them yet. We're not asking the child to write anything there. We're just asking them to make words phonetically, all phonetic words as well. So around 4 to 4.5, these materials introduced, the top 3. I Spy could be introduced a little bit earlier. And this one here, down the bottom, is called Insets for Design, the ones with the shapes. That's for actually encouraging the child to develop fine motor control and their pencil grip. So when the child does these works, they trace around individual shapes, and they have to then do tiny little lines from left to right. And that takes a lot of control to do that. The lines have to be really, really close together. So it's refining and the fingers and the movements that they need. Often you'll see, like in school situations, the children do pre-writing activity books. Montessori doesn't have those pre-writing activity books because insets are their pre-writing activities. There are so many designs that a child can do, and they think it's absolutely amazing, but they are refining their skills ready for writing. Yeah. And the last one here, oops, sorry, we'll just move on. The last one here, the grammar box. This is one that is not often used so much, but it is an absolute great piece of activity, and it would be used after the child can read, because they need to be able to read the little words. So it's a farm, and it introduces parts of speech, so nouns, verbs, adjectives. The child needs to be able to phonetically read some words. So this is quite a lot more steps, and then they actually label. So they would read the noun and they would put it near the horse. Yeah. And then there would be verbs and adjective words, and they would have to match those to the particular object on the farm. I did this with a few 5 and 5.5-year-olds, and they absolutely love it. Yeah. The thing is, the children love using this material. It's like it's their play, but it's their work at the same time. They absolutely love it, but they don't know all the concepts that they're learning through it. They just think it's amazing to do these activities. The next one is mathematics. So the cards and counters up here, you'll see the way they've laid them out. This one here is teaching children about odd and even numbers, but it's also about one-to-one correspondence, and also learning about one and then putting one counter as well, reinforcing the concept of counting. But you'll see that they've put them together in pairs, and then there's an odd one out on number 3. So they're learning about odd and even in that one. The spindle box is about teaching the concept of 0. This will be the first time that the educator has taught the concept of 0, because they show the child that we put nothing in this box. You'll see that in number 2 and 3, the little spindles are actually tied with a little string. This often isn't demonstrated this way, but the concept of that is that when the child feels it in their hand, that's why it's so good about Marie Montessori's materials. When they feel it in their hand, when they feel just one spindle, but as the number gets bigger and bigger, their hand, the way they have to hold the spindles gets bigger. So they start to realize that numbers grow, and 10 is so much bigger than 1. So it's a real hands-on experience for them when they do this activity. And I thought I'd show this one as well, the golden beads introduction lesson. This is one that maybe people may have not seen before, but this is introduced into the decimal system. And the child, once again, we can see that they get to see what 1,000 feels like, but then when you hold 1 unit in your hand, it's so little compared to 1,000. So they get to feel what it feels like to hold these numbers in their hands, that it matters. And then it prepares them for more advanced mathematics, this one here, for addition, subtraction, multiplication. Yeah, so that one there is the golden beads. And if you haven't seen before, maybe ask your child's educators if they have them in the classroom to show you a little bit more about it, because there are, because I don't have the actual objects here, it's really hard to show exactly how you give a lesson, and on Zoom it's really hard as well. So before we move on to any questions, I just want to give a summary about when you're choosing Montessori materials. So you would have seen in all of those materials that I've shown today that they're all beautiful. We need to ensure that when we give children materials, that they are always beautiful. They're always in perfect condition. So right back at the very start, I showed you the pink tower. If the pink tower is chipped or the paint's coming off, we have to take it away. We always want to make sure that the materials in the room, right down to the sponges, the paintbrushes, everything is always looking beautiful and in really good condition. We need to know the purpose of the material and how to show it. And then I put that little picture in there because we need to make sure that the material is appropriate to the size of the child's hand. That's really crucial. So we could, a watering can for 3 to 6-year-old is going to be very different to a watering can in the under 3s. We need to make sure that the materials that we give the child's able to use in regards to the strength and size of their hand. Yeah. And we need to continually checking and maintaining materials as well, whether if it's in your home that you want to do this or in your centre, but making sure that the materials are always beautiful and always ready for the child, because that shows respect for the child, that we care, that your work is so valuable and we're providing you with the best that we can. Yeah, it doesn't have to be all these Montessori materials, but if you're having an activity, a painting activity in the home, the paintbrushes should be always in good condition, not hard, because when they're stiff, the child can't paint. Yeah. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on the materials, but the materials should always be in really good condition so that the child can use them to the way that they're meant to be used. Yeah. So before we go on, are there any questions that you have burning desire to ask, any questions about materials that you might have used in your space or want to know more information about materials? Anyone got any? Or how they can learn more about how to use materials? I'll just put this last slide up so that you can see that. Because if you're looking for more support, reach out. I have my own business called Montessori Instinct. And if you want to connect and learn more about how to use materials for your child or helping set up your space in your home, then feel free to reach out. I've got my little website down there if you just want to have a look. And if you want to have a conversation before you decide to move forward, free consultations as well, free phone call consultations. Yeah, if you want to know more. So thank you, everyone. And my next workshop I'll be doing in September. Perfect. So thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that and look forward to seeing some more people at the next workshop. Thank you.